Blackbolt here was a highly anticipated figure by many fans of the Marvel Legends line. He is the king of the Inhumans and had a really large role in the War of Kings storyline. He features an articulated neck, a ball joint at the shoulder, a ball joint at the elbow, a ball joint at the wrist, an articulated torso, another ball joint at the hip, ball joint at the knee, a cut calf, which is pretty nice, and another ball joint at the ankle. He is not really lacking for articulation. He's a pretty well articulated figure. Overall, he's not bad. He has two major drawbacks, however. His paint application is fairly sloppy in what little paint he has. Let me zoom in so you can see. I'm not sure how well this shows up, but the paint application on the wrists, on the kind of gauntlet gloves, is very poor and uneven and just kind of fades in certain spots. Let me show you the other one. Slightly better example on this one. Very sloppy, not very neat, and it's apparent on the waist as well on certain parts. Certain parts are very clean cut and not at all messy. The other drawback are these wings. Instead of attaching them at the side of the inside of the arm or at the back of the arm, they chose to attach it at the front of the bicep, which I have to say is really annoying and gets in the way of any type of arm movement that you want to pose Blackbolt with. It's just gets really in the way and really takes away from the figure. It's very disappointing. This figure was by far my biggest disappointment of the wave, which was very unfortunate because I was very much looking forward to him. His hands are also in weird poses, and it just sort of makes him look like an opera singer, which is fairly appropriate considering his sonic powers. But overall, I would give this guy an unfavorable result, unfortunately, mostly because of these wings. They get in the way and they just take away from the figure, which is really unfortunate. Next up is the Punisher. Now, I did get the variant of this Punisher. This is the normal version, this is the variant. These two figures are the perfect example of how much of a difference a paint application can make on a figure. Now, before I go into that too much, I want to show the articulation on the figure first. He is articulated in the head. He is articulated at the torso, ball joint at the shoulder, another ball joint at the wrist and elbow. He does not have a cut waist, although he does look like it at first glance. He has ball joints at the hips, double jointed knees, and he has the ball joint at the ankle. He also comes with this great big rifle and a handgun that fits in his holster on his right thigh, which I can't seem to get out just now, but it does come out, but that's okay. The figure is very poseable. He looks good with the gun as well. The gun is very appropriate for this character. But what I really want to do is show you the difference between this figure and its variant. So let's do that. As I said before, these two figures are the perfect example of the difference a good paint application can make. Now, as the bad example is the regular version of the figure. The good example is the variant. Starting at the camouflaged pants versus the very plain and black version of the pants on the regular figure. Most prominently are the shirts. The Punisher symbol itself. On the regular figure, you'll note that there are no teeth in the Punisher skull, which is just kind of lazy. That happened on the Icons figure, and I did not buy it because of that. If you look at the variant, there are most certainly the extra care and detail of the teeth on the skull. The skull just looks better on the variant than it does on the regular figure. Also, I'll just point out the difference of the faces. The skull painted onto the variant's face, which was very, very well done and just makes the figure come alive. Whereas the regular figure, let it come into focus, has no paint application on the face at all and really is just very disappointing and plain with the one monotone color. The old Toy Biz figures often had a paint wash on flesh colored areas, and that is very much lacking and missed on a figure like this. But in every way that this figure comes up short, this variant comes up strong. And I am very glad I picked up this variant. I would prefer I did not pick up the regular version of the figure and instead picked up the variant of the Daredevil instead. My favorite part of any Marvel Legends Wave review, and that's assembling the Build-A-Figure. The head came with Tigra, the lower torso came with Daredevil. We'll attach them. We have the right arm came with Astonishing Beast. We will attach that now as well. This little canopy for Nemesis's head, or Holocaust's head, does come off. So don't worry if that kind of snaps off. It's supposed to. Alright. The arm is in place. We'll now attach the other arm, the cannon arm, that came with the Punisher. Nice and easy. Left leg came with Blackbolt. Right leg came with Nova. And Nova's piece puts up a little bit of a struggle. There we go. Now he is wonderfully articulated with a ball joint at the elbows and a ball joint at his one wrist here. The arm cannon is not articulated except at the elbow. He has ball joints at the shoulders The canopy folds up so you can see his gruesome self. He is articulated at the torso, ball joints at the hips, ball joints at the knees, and ball joints at the ankles. Surprise, surprise. The paint job on this guy is fantastic in every way. From the energy spots on his arms and chest and the rest of his body, really, just wonderfully applied, even on his back, right down to the detailing of his skull face, which is not really coming into focus, but you get the idea. My canopy actually did break at the hinge, so unfortunately I can't leave it open. So he will stay shut like this, like he is most of the time anyway. The figure was sculpted in the style that Joe Madureira, or however you pronounce his name, I never really got the hang of that, originally designed him for the Age of Apocalypse. I always thought he was kind of an underused character once they brought him over from the Age of Apocalypse into the 616 Marvel continuity. Anyway, he was one of my favorite characters, and definitely one of my favorite character designs from the Age of Apocalypse. And in every way, this figure brings that to 3D form, and definitely worth the effort of finding the figures to put him together. I wish I could say more of the wave were winners, but the Build-A-Figure is definitely a winner. The wave includes Punisher, Nova, Blackbolt, Tigra, Astonishing Beast, and Tigra, Daredevil. Which did I miss? Both, maybe. Who knows? Let's go right to the figures. And with that, this ridiculously long review comes to an end. So, remember to check out Power TV for all of your latest news on gaming, comics, toys, movies, music, and a whole lot more.